Good day, Africa. Welcome to AAU TV. This is Agenda 2063, and I'm your host, Schenineda Kwaku Ankomah. Today on Agenda 2063, we are looking at an Africa whose development is people-driven and then relying on the potential of the youth, children, and then women. This topic is very important. And today in the house, actually, I have a full house. I have on my immediate left, Miss Djanie, Angelica. Miss Djanie Angelica is a development communications specialist. Then I have Samudeen Yusif. He is also with the International Open University, the Gambia. He is the country rep in Ghana here. Then I have Miss Joyce Ohenewa Kwapong. Miss Joyce Ohenewa Kwapong is a gender and children activist. I also have the familiar face among the people here, Nana Agyemang. Nana Agyemang is a correspondent to the Commonwealth and he's in Ghana. And also, he's also a communication secretary for National Union of Ghana Students. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, if you are in the house, you are watching us from the Association of African Universities, CDO. You can join the discussion because obviously we are talking about the youth, we are talking about children, we are talking about women. This is the chance to join the discussion on Facebook, Association of African Universities, on Twitter, AAU_67. We will go for a quick break. Stay with us.
The accreditation of its base degree program It is my great pleasure to welcome you Islamically to the IOU experience. I believe personally, that the vast majority of you will take the best of it. As we were successful in our free short courses, registering over 18,000 students within 3 years, we are sure that by offering the BA in Islamic Studies, as well as further studies, free to the world, it would be embraced by you all.
Welcome back. This is Agenda 2063. You can also join our discussion on YouTube, Association of African Universities. Welcome again, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Today we are looking at an Africa whose development is people-driven. We are relying on the potential of the youth, children, and women. So we have three groups of people here that we are talking about today. But then the question that I want to pose to you in the first place is, why do you think that in charting our path to development, these three groups are key? How do they contribute to development that makes them so important? Let me start from you, Eric.
Schenineda, good afternoon. And obviously, let me say the same to our cherished viewers across the African continent. Bonsoir à vous, téléspectateurs. And even before I deal with your substantive question, I think two quick things. I think by the very fact that we're talking about the Agenda 2063, specifically the Aspiration 6, where we intend to create an Africa where its development will be people-driven and to unleash the potential of the youth and women as well as children. I think by that very fact, I mean, clearly, we sort of making an admission that yes, Africa is not developed yet, and even if we were, our development process has not been people-driven. And that is why I find this whole thing a bit of a curious irony.
Okay.
Because if you look at Africa, let's get into the statistics. Clearly, we would all agree that major constituents of Africa are women and the youth.
Yeah.
And so if for nothing at all, we should have them, that is the majority constituent, you know, taking charge of almost every sector. But it appears it's the other way around. Ordinarily, we should have the majority taking charge of all sectors of our economy and leadership. But we rather have the minority being in charge, and then we, the majority, that is the youth and the women, now trying to fight to be head of there. So I think clearly, even by the statistics alone, women and children, as well as the youth, really deserve to be put on the map.
So we have a misplaced agenda. Is that what you mean?
Exactly, we do.
Okay. All right. So let me get to you quickly. Joyce Ohenewa Kwapong. Actually, I was in Kwapong Hall back at the University of Ghana. So sometimes I'll be calling you Kwapong. Is it okay?
Yes, that's
okay.
fine.
You are women and youth, and then specifically children activists.
Yes.
And then it's clearly stated in the Agenda 2063 Aspiration 6 that relying on the potential of women. And also it says that protecting children. What role would you say women have in development that makes them so much important?
I would say that with women, we have so much potentials that we are supposed to, as a continent, look so much into it, and then focus on those positive aspects of the woman and the potentials that the woman has.
Okay.
So when it comes to building of a society, you could tell that women play a very fundamental and pivotal role in that.
Yeah.
So if we are looking at a vision of Africa being placed on a higher pedestal and Africa developing, it means we have to look at women and how they can also influence to make this vision a reality.
Okay.
You look at, let's take in Liberia War some years back. You could tell that it was a woman that actually stood, Lema Gbowe, that stood for the peace of Liberia. She had other people to support her, right? When it comes to the youth, you could tell that most of the people that were used as war agents were the youth.
Okay.
And the person that brought peace it took a woman who had to even mobilize a group of women to also ensure that peace is prevailed in Liberia.
Okay.
So that alone should tell you that when it comes to building of a society, women have influence, women have power, and women have capabilities to ensure that a continent or a society is built.
Okay, thank you. We will come back to the specific potential of women that makes them, a strong pillar in terms of development or charting the path to development for Africa. But let me quickly get to you, Samudeen. Samudeen, Africa has a young population, and of course, Africa is the continent with the highest youth population right now. But then we seem to have a problem when it comes to development. The youth are not involved. But then these are the people who have a lot of potential. In your opinion, what do you think the youth have to offer that we need to unleash that potential?
Thank you very much, and then thank you to your viewers as well. The role of the youth cannot be underestimated in any way, because even if you are building a house, let's start from the very beginning. Who are there to pick the blocks? Who are there to dig the foundation? So you see that if we are talking about development, then we have to look at those who are there to put what it takes for the development to stand on its feet. So if we are talking about development, then it means that we are talking about changing our living standard, improving economics, whatever you are looking at, the economy, stimulating the economy. Who are those who are going to stimulate the economy?
Okay.
It is the youth that need to build ventures. It is the youth that need to create avenue for food, okay? And I mean the 5 basic needs that we have. But it can come, but we need some skills to be able to put those things together. And if we need to be able to change the situation of Africa from all those tax, poor, illiteracy, this, if we need to be able to change it, then the large population, which is made up of the youth, are those that need to be taken into consideration in everything that we do. So how are we going to make sure that we will be able to turn this large market, I will call it as a market, into turning them into systems that can be able to support the Africa that we are envisioning. So the role of the youth in achieving the Africa that we are all looking at, the Africa that's free from poverty, Africa that is free from is full of peace, Africa that is full of happiness, then the role of the youth, the women, and the children cannot be underestimated.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me get to you, Angelica. Angelica, you know, Africa, when we talk about resources, we say that Africa is endowed with a lot of resources. Sometimes you talk of gold, bauxite, oil. We have a share of our sea where we fish and all those things. But one key resource that we have is the rising youth population. Unfortunately, we have our unemployment rate over the roof. And the worst case, women do not even represent much when it comes to their fair share of employment. What do you have to say about that?
Okay, thank you very much. I want to focus this from the rural communities perspective.
Okay.
This is because this is what I do, rural community development. And when we talk of youth and women, go to the villages and see potentials. See youth who are not educated, but they are doing great stuff. For instance, you think that you are in the city and you are educated, so you go there with your theoretical knowledge to do something for them. They'll tell you, no, do it this way, do it that way, and you'll be amazed. Okay. You see a woman, a farmer, she'll go to the farm, harvest farm produce, let's say palm fruit, for instance. Out of the palm fruit, she makes red oil. From the chaff that comes, she recycles it and turn it into something. Yeah. You see a youth using the palm leaves for, let's say, fan or whistle or something. These are things that we don't really look at. But when we talk of developed countries, what comes to mind? Their economic status. Yeah. If we are training these youth in the rural communities, for them to be imbibed with skills to brand this thing that they do, we bring them to the market or we sell them across the borders of Africa, I think it will contribute to Africa being developed. Okay. So I think we should really focus on the youth and women in the rural communities. Okay. Yeah.
So by, as a follow-up question, by unleashing the potential of the women and the youth, you think that we should focus on the rural areas. But then what particular area would you say that in Africa we are lacking? And for that matter, if we can get the best out of our women, if we can get the best out of the youth, we should focus on right now?
I think it's education. Okay. Yeah, because personally, our educational curriculum, I think there are certain things we need to take out from them. Because do we have entrepreneurship as a course? Okay. Way back in high school, if you are late, you'll be told go and weed. So what are we telling ourselves? Weeding is for the it's a punishment. If you don't perform well in class, you grow up to be a farmer. I mean, we see farming as right now. Farming is, let's say, the new gold. We see farming as either a punishment or a job for those who are not fortunate to be performing well in class or in school or in the academic area. You see, so I think we should change our mindset, the educational curriculum as a whole. We should put in theories and practicals that build our skills, that build us in terms of us thinking. Because I don't think we should go to school and be told, what is this? You define it and that makes you a best student. But I think teachers or lecturers should test our intelligence instead of our memories. A question like, how can you do this? How do we farm? You write not based on what the teacher has told you, but based on your own observation or your own practicals. There should be more of field trips for students. If you are an agriculture student, there should be a farm where you visit. If you are a government student, you should be able to partake in parliamentary discussions and stuff like that. This way we are equipped with skills rather than just reading theories to pour up on paper at the end of exams, and we call ourselves best students because we're able to revive our memories on papers.
Okay, thank you very much. Yusif, one key thing, if we are going to rely on the potential of our women and then the youth, then most obviously they need to be empowerment. Which key area do you think that we should empower, our women, or we should empower our youth? What do we lack, and then what do you expect when we say that empowerment? Because there are words we throw away. We say empower the women, empower the youth, empower the children. What do you expect when you talk about empowerment?
Yeah, when you are talking about empowerment, it's a big word that needs to be broken down. Before we talk about empowerment, I think it's about capacities. Okay, providing the skills. Maybe from my background as an international open university, we are looking into human capital development. Okay, so if you want to see development, what are the areas we want to see the development? Now, let's ask ourselves, what is the problem of Africa? What are the resources that we have? Okay, we have an arable land. Everywhere you put something, it germinates. Okay, what do we need? We need our youth to be able to be entrepreneurs, to be able to create jobs, to be able to, we want an Africa that we can be able to feed ourselves. Okay, now if we can be able to feed ourselves, how can we do it if we don't have what it takes to be able to feed ourselves? So like she was talking about educational institution, we have to teach relevant knowledge, okay? We need, yes, as a continent, there are so many areas we need so much. But if we see that, let's look at our comparative advantage. We have the natural resource, which is the land, which wherever you grow something, it grows. So if we want to go forward, then we need to build a capacity of the youth in the skills or in areas that when they get it, they can be able to change the story. So if we are talking about our own farms, how do we turn our peasant farming into commercial farming? We want more food, rice, chicken, meat, this and this and this. How do we do that? How do we train our people? So before we can be able to achieve this, we need to come back to the capacity. If we don't build the capacity of the person, because we always say that we have the greatest number of youth, fine, it's an advantage. But what is entailed in the youth? So both at the policy level, whatever we are discussing at the top, let's look at it. What will be the translation of the policy we take on the skill that the people on the ground need to be able to give what Africa wants? But there seems to be mismatch between what is being discussed at the policy level and what the people themselves have. Because you want to see people creating up their own jobs, you want to see a lot of entrepreneurs. Okay, but when you ask the fellow, what do you need? Okay, create this thing. The fellow does not have what it takes. Even if he had the skill, where is the capital for him to start? So if we want to put the standard stage of development, now when we are making policies, let's consider the youth. They need a skill. When they get a skill, how can they be able to do it? They need some support in terms of either financial support, technical support, advisory support. How do we do this? So until we are able to identify this skill gap and fill it, then achieving our development will become a bigger issue.
Okay, thank you very much, Samudeen. Let me get to you, Joyce. Joyce, you are children and women activist, so most obviously we will leave you to talk about the children here. And so we talk about protecting children, and then women especially. So when it comes to that, what gaps do we still need to fill in terms of the rights of children, and then what we are doing wrong and we need to probably work on as a continent?
Okay, with regards to children, children should have the right to basic education. You get it? Without education plays a pivotal role in sustainable development and in the progress of a nation. So when we lack that education, then it means we are lacking as a continent.
Okay.
So with the youth, we should encourage them, you get it, to take education serious, to make education one of their focus.
Okay.
With that, they'll be able to also contribute to realizing this vision of making Africa a better continent.
Okay.
So let's say we go to the rural areas. We know that we have youth who, yes, they may not be in the classroom, but they have other talents that can be harnessed. And then that can also contribute to Africa being better. So we go to these deprived places, and then we look out for talents and reward them. When it comes to women as well, we look out for what women are also doing. You know, everybody wants to feel rewarded or wants to feel that, okay, the contribution that I'm making has been recognized.
Mm-hmm.
You get it? We celebrated Farmers' Day not long ago.
Okay.
I think over the years, I always see that it's men that are being celebrated as best farmer.
Okay.
But we have women who are also into agric. We have women that are into farming.
Okay.
How many women have been selected and have been rewarded? You get it?
Okay.
So there are certain things, there are certain crucial things that we know that for this agriculture, education, all these things are certain things that contribute, they are basic tools that contribute to the growth and development of our continent. So we have to really focus on those areas and then build on them. So you pick the youth, you realize that, oh, for this person, he's not in the classroom, but he's good in using his hands to, let's say, manufacture, let's say, an aeroplane, or do this or do that. He's applying certain things that he hasn't even learned in the classroom. Someone is doing engineering but has no idea of how to even dismantle such things. So such a person, you find ways and means of promoting that talent that he has, so that would also help in building the Africa that we want.
Okay, as a follow-up to the child protection and then children's rights and all those things, the issue of child labor is a problem when it comes to Africa, because people are trying to escape poverty, and by that we sometimes tend to push our children, you know, to be involved in some work that they are not supposed to be involved in. What about that particular issue of child labor on the continent, and how do we deal with that issue? If you go to the streets of Accra, you find as young as 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds begging on the streets and all that. What can we do to help these children? Take them off the streets, give them, what do we need?
I think this all boils down to lack of education.
Okay.
These children, at a certain age, let's say at the age of 18, once you are below 18, you shouldn't even be engaged in such stuff on the street. So let's say a child of 5 years old is an underaged person,
okay,
and does not belong to the street.
Yeah.
That person belongs to the classroom. So we have to find ways and means of getting rid of all these young people from the street, and then finding the potentials in them. Some of them also may not be academically good,
yeah,
but you realize that this person wants to, let's say, be a hairdresser. This person wants to enter into seamstress, and this person wants to enter into carpentry. All these are not jobs that are so menial that you think, oh, let me definitely take him to the classroom. I think that's where he's supposed to groom up or be someone in future. You get it? So these people, you look at them and you look at their potentials. I belong to one NGO, and we are trying to look into streetism and this kind of child labor stuff. So we are going to visit the streets and talk to some of the youth, the kids, and people on the street, and ask them what really they want, what do they really want to do. You get it? So if this person says, okay, I want to go into seamstress, and we know how best we can help that person out. Okay. So what I would say is that with these people, some of them do not actually belong to the classroom, but we have to go to the grassroots and then find out what really they want to do, and then we can take them there.
All right. So, Agyemang, is it possible to take these children off the streets so that we give them some sort of training that would mean that they will not go back to the streets and then probably we will find something better for them to do so that they can contribute to the development of Africa. Is there something we can do? What are the challenges?
Okay, something brief, and then I will attend to the substantive question you passed around. I think if you look at Ghana as a republic, we have F-Cube, that is free, compulsory, universal, basic education.
Yeah.
It's not just free, it is compulsory. That's what the C stands for.
Yeah.
And so, fine, we have the fine laws in place, but what we have to do is to get it implemented. And so if it's compulsory, then we wouldn't have these young boys and girls going around, you know, doing all the menial jobs. But then can we just
go into the streets and then pick them from the streets and say, we are taking you to the classroom? Because most of them, you see them and they have their parents sitting at some corner watching them do that.
I think we should make it criminal.
It's a law. It is a law and it needs to be enforced. Government, I tell you, is the most powerful element we can ever find in any republic. Maybe it's in Africa that sometimes the government gets to exercise some sort of sympathy, you know, when dealing with kids. But outside there, it's not like that. Your kid can even be taken away from you. So I think it's just a matter of getting the laws implemented. But I think I've been sitting here listening to Angelica and Joyce wax lyrical about how we can get to empower women. And for me, I think that is where I would disagree with them. I don't think women actually need empowerment. As a student of gender and politics, I think what we need is the system recognizing that women are already empowered. I mean, you come to our universities, the graduations, and women are always coming on top as the best graduating students. You go to the law school, let's say a number of 250, and sometimes you have well in excess of 150 and sometimes 200 women passing out. So for me, it's not a matter of education. They have that already. And even in our universities, you take the University of Ghana Business School, for example. I know the women are given a certain leverage. Sometimes as a boy, you need about 7, aggregate 7. And a woman, even at 9, you are taking. So I think we are making progress. They are being given a lot of opportunities, especially in our educational arena. But what we need is the system recognizing that, yes, women are well empowered and that we can entrust institutions into their hands to deliver. But sometimes you can't really blame the system, because I tell you, Schenineda, and you are aware, even coming for this interview, myself and Yusif arrived here before the ladies. Okay. The program was to start at 1 o'clock, but we were here waiting for the ladies to come. So sometimes, yes, the system is not too wrong. Okay. You know, sometimes hesitating to, you know, throw opportunities at the women. Don't take offense at me. Okay. You know, but that is. But then I will give the opportunity to Angelica to either, you know, support his claim or probably take a different.
I was focusing on women and youth in the rural communities.
Okay.
As you were saying, like women come out with first class, and they don't even have that opportunity in the first place, but they have the resource, they have the potential to contribute to developing our continent. And this potential, we don't even look at them at all. We don't care what one woman is doing with her potential. We don't care what one youth in a village somewhere in the north or in the central region doing. These are things that I was talking about. We should start looking at them. How did they learn this? Not from the classroom. I think out from curiosity or whichever way. They know how to do it anyway. So I think instead of focusing on youth in the cities, which like these days you look at programs where Accra, Kumasi, you've never heard maybe my village, Abra Bando, Anomabo, or even Teshin, something like that. Yeah. So this is stuff that I'm talking about. We should start focusing on them.
But would you say that women have failed women? Because if you go to the gender ministry, we've consistently had women being the ministers in charge. We continue to talk about women empowerment. Would we say that women have failed women? Yusif?
Before I come to that one, the issue of trying to change the story of the children on the youth is we have to be responsible as a continent. Once upon a time, dealing with the child or trying to bring up the child of a friend's child or a child was the collective responsibility. But today, Africa is seem to forget that thing. Today, somebody cannot correct somebody's child. If we want to be the Africa that we want, we need to revisit those days. We have to be responsible. When I see somebody's child going wayward, it's not very good to say that, anyway, it's not my child. No, that was not the Africa that we know. The Africa that we know, when a child is not doing right, somebody can discipline somebody's child. And when you go to report him to the father will in the first place support the person who brought you. But what are we seeing today? If we want to go forward, it is high time we take Africa's issue as a personal issue and not more from the business perspective. Because today when you see somebody doing something, we are doing for a result. Yes, I don't say people don't go that way. But where we are finding ourselves as a continent is really a serious business, a serious issue. The story is not very good to be told. When you pass to the town in the evening and you see children lying there, you marvel and ask yourself, is this a 9-month-old baby, somebody who has lied the stomach for 9 months, lying under the traffic light at that night? It's high time we stop playing games with our own issues, okay? We have a problem. Look, because we have to be thinking about how are we going to correct it. See, do it and do it passionately. Don't wait for the government. You too can do it.
Okay, Pan-Africanism, then a strong cultural identity.
Exactly.
Revisiting our culture.
We have to come back to that place and then take it from there and move forward.
We will come back to the issue of the solutions, concrete solutions and all that. Viewers, if you're watching us from the house, the office, wherever you are, you can join the discussion. Follow us on Facebook, Association of African Universities. Search for Association of African. Welcome back. This Agenda 2063. Before we left on Yusif's serious accusation of Africa that we are not helping each other. We are being, this is not my own, that is your own. But then we should get back together and then see someone's own as your own. So that is a strong cultural identity which we used to have some years back. He's suggesting that we should go back to that. But Eric, when we went for the break, you tried to also take a different dimension to his case. Now let me give you the opportunity to do it.
Right. I think clearly we can all agree that there's a departure from how we used to live, the communal element, gradually, even our extended families appear to be vanishing. We only think of ourselves, and that if you see a kid on the street, really, you don't get to care much about that. But with that, I don't think there's much that we as individual citizens of African countries can do.
Okay.
I think it ultimately rests in the hands of the government.
Okay.
Because if I see a kid lying on the street, what really do you expect me to do? What really do you expect me to do? I think it's high time African governments comes up with, and that is very much done in the West, welfare schemes for children, the vulnerable, the disabled, and other minority groups, getting to roll out, such policies to help them. Because if we don't, And last time I was saying that today we are here making appeals. Government needs to do this. We will continue to do that. Give us 6 months to a year. We start writing petitions, storming parliaments, presidential policies. That can continue 6 months, a year. And if nothing happens, trust me, there's going to be a serious revolution in African states. So it's that time the government gets to listen to us, and that is sad. That is sad. See kids on the streets and nothing being done about it.
Okay. All right. So that makes it interesting because you are saying that we should take it personal, and then Eric is saying that it should be left to the government to do that. Joyce, do you have any?
I also think yes, with issues about streetism, about children being on the street, child labor and all that, individuals can play their part, but the onus lies on the government. You get it? There's little we can play as individuals. You see people going on the street to give gifts to the street children and all that. In other aspects, people see it to be those people encouraging the kids to still be on the street to beg. In other aspects too, you can't leave humanity aside and say, well, I didn't ask you to be here, so let me just ignore you and then also move on. Sometimes you just feel like, well, it's not his or her fault to be here, so let me just give something little to this child, at least to survive. But if the government takes it upon himself to criminalize that act and make it known that it is a criminal offense or criminal act to leave your child underaged on the street, you get it, then the parents would also have this kind of fear that, well, my child is too young, I have to find a place for this child to sleep. This child shouldn't be left on the street during working hours or school hours. So the government must first criminalize it. And two, civil society organizations can also come in and then find better ways to resolve the problem. Okay. We may go on the streets and give them gifts and all that. That is not solving the problem. In a way, that's also encouraging them to come on the streets to beg. Okay. So there was a time when I think one former gender minister, I don't know if it's Nana Oyele's era, where the street children were taken into vans and all that. You know, people came out to criticize and all that. But I realized that if you do it that way, yes, she won't take the kids and go and dump them somewhere. But that will create some fear. That will put some fear in the parents. That when your child is seen on the street, the government can pick the child up and take the child elsewhere. Will take the child from you. Now, we look at these whites, or is it these Africans that are from this country, that they see the children to be their asset. So the more you give birth, the more wealthy you are. So as you give birth, you take the child to the street, the child works, goes to beg, and then makes some money and bring it to you, the parent. You see them hiding in their small corners, and then they send little children as little as 2 years. You see that child on the street begging, and sometimes you are left with nothing, no option than to give the little child something. Okay. So first of all, we must criminalize the act, and then civil society organizations must also find better ways of solving the problem than to. So,
Angelica, she gave us strong solutions. First, the government, then 2 civil organizations. Do you have any way to solve this issue? Because at a point, what she was saying about you being human, and then the fact that if you give them money to, you're kind of encouraging them to be on the street, it's a serious issue. So now I'm lost. Should I give them money?
So let's look at why are they there in the first place?
Yes.
Yeah. It's because their parents are poor.
Okay.
So if, for instance, the government should criminalize this because the children shouldn't be on the street, and I don't have the money to take care of my children, what then should I do? So I think that it's up to the government to come out with policies which is going to open up, which is going to create more jobs for the citizens. Individuals are trying to solve this problem, but to my observation, I think they are not using the right approach. For instance, you see a child on the street walking barefooted, and the next thing is you go and buy chalewote for the child.
Okay.
The next time he's going to tell another child, remove your chalewote home and go to the street walking barefoot so that somebody will come and give it to you. So I think instead of us helping their children directly, if you can help, see their parents. What do you do? Obviously, they don't do anything. Okay, let me buy pure water sachet for you to start selling, to generate money to take care of your children.
Okay.
I think this is how we as individuals should help. But the government, it's our basic needs. We have the right to shelter, food, education. This is what is not going on in the African countries.
Okay.
For instance, as he made mention of the Western thing, I schooled in France, and in France there is this restaurant called Resto du Quai for people who are vulnerable, people who are poor. Every month you go for your tickets, you go there and eat free for the full month till you find yourself a job. So if the African leader, they do imitate the Western world a lot. So I think they should start imitating the good things they do. Okay. If you can't create jobs, I think
life easy.
Establish something that is going to make life easier for everyone than we finding our children on the streets.
Okay. Yusif, what do you have to say on streetism and
you see, we've always say government. There are three people in the economy.
Okay.
The government, the individual, and the business industries. Okay. So the government is doing its part. But what is the individual and the corporate institutions doing? Okay. Yes, if you see a child on the street and I'm wealthy, and I can take care of a child, why don't I go to the channel and adopt child into my house? Like from an institution perspective, the institution plays a role. We, from our institution, International Open University, have also taken note of that. And that is how come we have earmarked a project specifically for Africa. We call it 1 million scholarship project for Africa. The goal is to build a capacity of 1 million youth. We believe that if we are able to give them the skill in IT, we give them the skill in banking and finance, psychology, agri-economics, business administration, education, they can be able to create something for themselves. Okay, so as an institution, that's what I'm saying, that institutions can do their part, government can do its part, but we from us, it's the International Open University, what we are doing to contribute that's why you can see that the institutions have their role to play is, we are rolling out this 1 million scholarship project, and we are focusing on 10 English-speaking African countries: Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Gambia, Uganda, all these things. Each country, we as an institution, is giving 100,000 scholarship to the country. So Ghana, for example, the institution has given Ghana 100,000 scholarship. Ours is to identify those who need it, and we give it to them, build their capacity for them to take charge of their life. So we are doing that. So every institution have something they do. Yesterday I spoke to our corporate social responsibilities. You see, we need to channel it into something that is more relevant to us. Okay. I know that corporate social responsibility, sometimes we have to do it to bring some return back to the company. Of course, but if you look at the name, we are, as a corporate institution, you are giving back to the society. So if you are giving back to the society, where will you have dumped it? See what is needed in your field and put it there. So if you look at our case, we realize that building the capacity is the key thing. Okay. So we are rolling out this 1 million scholarship project, earmark building 1 million capacity of African youth. When we are able to build them, they can be able to find jobs or create jobs. Okay. When they create jobs, they can be able to fight the issue of poverty. These street children, if their parents are empowered, now we have short-term means. We can look at today, giving money, giving that. But if we are looking at 2063, what can we do that in that 2063 we can be able to take advantage of the 2063? So if today we are able to take somebody out of the streets and give him a 4-year degree course in, let's say, IT, online, whatever it is, by 4-year time, this person is out of a zone. Now, he's not thinking of going to the streets. He's not thinking of how am I going to use a skill. So every institution can do it. International Open University, the Gambia, we are doing our part by giving out this scholarship. What can you also do? Okay.
All right. So the role of institution also counts in solving this particular problem. Before we leave, I will give the opportunity for all of you to give us your final comments on this whole discussion. An Africa where development is people-driven, relying on the potential of youth, children, and then also protecting our children, just like what Joyce has been hammering on. So I will start from you, Angelica.
Okay. Okay, so what I have to say is I'm appealing to the international and the local NGOs to really review how they go about developing communities.
Okay.
Because one thing I realized that so many organizations fail because of how they go about helping the people.
Okay.
Like they think for the people, they don't involve the people, they just assume that, okay, this is the problem you are facing, so we are coming to solve it for you. For instance, you go into a community, you see a child walking around without a dress. Okay, so they think, oh, they need dresses. The next time they buy bulk of dresses and share them, they will still won't wear it. You didn't really do your research if it is their culture or whatever reason be that they are not wearing the dress. So we just assume it for them. For instance, we need to build a well for them.
Okay.
We just give them tools, everything. Meanwhile, the people have the resource. Every household you can, okay, what do we need? We need cutlass to clear the land. You bring it. You bring this. So collectively, you do it. But if you go and you assume that this is what they need, and you say to your somewhere, go and buy the stuff and do it for them, even maintenance becomes a problem. Yeah. They have, well, yet they don't take care of it. They have school buildings. No one sits in the classroom. So they have markets. Yeah, the women don't go there. So I think if we really want to develop communities, we should not negotiate. We should consult them. Okay. Find out the problem they are. They know themselves. They know the problem that they are facing. Find out from there and use the people, the resource of the people, with you supporting them to create the solution that they need, instead of you thinking for them and giving them, feeding them with the solution.
Okay, so doing a need analysis and then encouraging ownership of
and involving project. And involving
okay, Yusif, a quick one.
Yes, Africa has a unique challenge, and we need to find a homemade unique solution to our unique case. Okay. We need to go back to once upon a time being responsible, supporting each other. Okay. Like I said, we are rolling out this 1 million scholarship project. We as an institution cannot do it alone. We need the support of Africa itself, the corporate institution, the government. We are giving out the scholarship, but we need to be able to get the people to study in learning centers. Okay, so we need to partner with each other. You are strong here, you are strong here. Build the learning centers wherever you find yourself. In your school, in your area, we will donate the scholarship to you. Because if we focus on building the capacity of Africans today, 2063 will be very, very nice or better than what we are thinking. 2063, Africa will not be referred to as a poverty area. Africa will not be referred with all these tags. Poor, illiterates. Africa has what it takes to be able to get out of this. But we need to be able to sit down as a continent, analyze our situation, and make a homemade solution. Let's look at within ourselves. Let's trust ourselves. Let's build on our own capacities. What do we have internally? How can we use what we have to be able to solve? Yes, we need external support, but we have to sit down as a family from today, see what can we do to be able to come together and find a solution to the problem that we are facing. It is those who are on the seat that know how hot it is. You cannot drink the medicine for the sick person. So we are the sick people. We need to sit up and find out the tablet or whatever we need to take for ourselves.
Okay, solving Africa's problem the African way. Joyce?
Okay, I would say this whole program is looking at the Africa we want. So it means we are envisaging an Africa which is prosperous and an Africa which is peaceful. Prosperity is not just about you, an individual, being prosperous. You being prosperous and your fellow human being prosperous is what will make Africa prosperous. It doesn't take just you, but it takes the other person. You hold each other's hand to reach that vision. So what I would say is that with the role of women and the youth, as well as children, there's a lot that will go into it for us to reach that destination that we want to. So the government should play its part well. Individuals should also focus and play their part well. And then also, as I said earlier, civil society organizations should also play their part very well.
Okay.
There's this NGO that I'm part of, that's Peace Jam Ghana.
Okay.
That's under the West African Center for Peace Foundation. We went for our usual conference, and we realized that with the issue of streetism, there are lots of people. You see someone who is blind and is being accompanied by a well-abled and a very strong, energetic young man begging for funds. And I ask myself, how many of these, for how long would they beg? Some of them have begged their entire lives. And with this money, they could have set up a tabletop business. They could have even sold yogurt or pure water and made something out of it. But you see these people, each and every day on the street, they keep begging. So what we decided to do was that we'll go on the streets as a foundation, talk to those along the streets, and then find out what they really want to do. Some of them possibly want to go into masonry, others into hairdressing, and a few other jobs. Okay. So we would see how best we can help them. So let's say we get about 20 people that want to go into hairdressing. We thought of collaborating with Ghana Hairdressers and Beauticians Association, as well as other hairdressing companies and stuff, so that we could enroll those people into it. Okay. Then afterwards, we would establish, let's say, a school or a hub, okay, where these people who have come out as experts will also train the next generation on the streets, who are also having the zeal or the passion to enter into hairdressing. So gradually, we'll be clearing these people off the street. We'll go for the next batch who are interested in masonry or carpentry, and then we enroll them as well. So this is the little that we also want to contribute to society. Okay. So any other NGO could also look at the need, the pressing need of Africa, the pressing need of Ghana, the pressing need of wherever they find themselves, target that area and find lasting solutions to it, not just temporary solutions where you just go, donate, you give them food to eat. Don't just give them fishes to eat, but teach them how to fish. That's what I would also say.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Eric?
Yeah, Schenineda, I mean, great points made by my co-panelists, Angelica, Yusif, and Joyce. And I think I should make a quick one, actually. They've made great points, and suffice it is to say that clearly, by virtue of the fact that we are discussing this, means that we're not developed as a continent yet, and that's why this plan has been set in motion in the first place, to sort of trigger a dramatic and fundamental change to get Africa to the place that we want. But you ask yourself again, in the drafting of this document, were the youth consulted? Were the women consulted? We certainly were not consulted. And so we started actually on a wrong footing. But in its implementation, I would appeal to African governments to get us involved in its implementation, so that we'll be able to, execute it, sort of customize it, okay, to suit our system. Okay. And another thing I want to talk about, I think perhaps less measurable, but no less profound, is sort of a dwindling of our confidence as the African youth. Okay. We appear to be giving up on ourselves, because our politicians are failing us. Okay. But I want us to stand to the challenge and make sure we demand what we deserve and keep the continent going.
Thank you very much, Eric, Joyce, Yusif, and Angelica for coming today. Obviously, there are a lot of issues that we were unable to cover because of our time, but most obviously, I understand Joyce has an NGO that is doing something incredible. Probably we'll have time to dig deeper into that and then look at what you're doing. Yusif, your organization is doing something incredible, and then we will look at how we can project that out there. Angelica, I know obviously you have some solutions to taking the kids out of the streets. And Eric, you mentioned that the government is probably, they did not involve us, but it's our document, and I hope that in our own niches, just like you are sitting here, spewing out solutions, I know the government is listening, the people are listening, and obviously there's going to be a change. So we shouldn't give up on ourselves yet. There is hope for the future. Thank you very much once again. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Agenda 2063, and I was your host, Schenineda Kwaku Ankomah. Next week, we will come your way with another episode of Agenda 2063. Thanks for watching.